Okay, so hello and welcome to F1 ETC podcast. We've got a new name, but I'm Ben and I'm joined by ARITRA as always.
Yeah, and we're back again with a new name. And if you wanna know our past, then I think you should go to SoundCloud and check us out. We were, I think, Sports Gazette F1 when we were in SoundCloud. New name, new beginning, and looking forward to it. Looking forward to discussing France with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, first things first, then, should we start with practice? What have you made of the two sessions so far?
Uh, the Mercedes juggernaut has not shown any signs of relenting, which is a sign of frustration for every non-Mercedes fan out there, even for a Mercedes fan, I guess. It's getting kind of boring now because in the early part of the season, at least for the first 3 or 4 races, you at least had Ferrari topping the practice session charts. Mercedes has even put a stop to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few kind of like bright sparks of Ferrari. Of course, you had Canada and you had Bahrain. Both you could say Ferrari should have won, didn't. And then yeah, we've come back to a track like France. They have got the long straights. They've also got the corners. Mercedes cars have been considerably better in the corners throughout the season, both the fast and the slow ones. And France have got plenty of those. So yeah, it was expected that Mercedes would return to the front of the pack, and they certainly have.
Yeah, well, that was kind of expected. I do expect it to be closer in the race than it was in FP1 and FP2 because I don't know. I mean, they were at least 3/10 to 4/10 ahead in both the sessions, and Leclerc was P3 in both the sessions. Seb was P5 in FP1 and P4 probably in FP2. So not really much of a contest, and Red Bull just seems to be out of it this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good feeling about Leclerc this weekend. Obviously, being from Monaco, France is just a short hop away. So, I'm sure he'd have raced at Paul Ricard a lot. It's got a lot of experience. So, yeah, I've got a good feeling about Leclerc this weekend. Certainly to beat Sebastian Vettel because I feel sorry for Leclerc. I feel like he needs that good weekend where, even if it's just fourth ahead of fifth, third ahead of fourth, just he needs a solid weekend where he can get himself ahead of Sebastian Vettel and finish there, no matter where. Even if it's ninth and tenth, something goes horribly wrong. He just needs a weekend where he finishes ahead of Vettel.
Well, I'm sure if the two Ferraris finish ninth and 10th, then I really don't know. The midfield has got to make some sort of a giant, sort of superhuman leap for that to happen. But then, yeah. Yes, Leclerc needs to be ahead of Vettel because we have seen glimpses where he can be faster than Vettel, but then he's not really put together a weekend as a whole together. We've seen glimpses throughout the weekend, yeah, as you said. So yeah, speaking of short distance from France, of French people, do you have any expectations from Gasly there?
Yeah, Pete. I mean, yes, it's shaping up to be a promising weekend for Red Bull. They bought a big engine upgrade. It's they say that it's not put them right on the pace where they're contenders, but with the circuit also potentially favouring the Red Bull car and certainly the increase in power. I think many people were expecting coming into the weekend, including myself, Red Bull to take a step forward and maybe be Mercedes' main challenger. Obviously, it's not. Pierre's been P6 in both practice sessions, which is solid for Pierre. But yeah, does need a good weekend, and obviously, of course, make up for last year when both two of the French drivers were taken out on the first lap when Pierre was one of those, I believe. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there'll be no there would sorry yeah there would be no
Yeah, no,
better
he
place.
ran into Esteban Ocon
Yeah,
last year.
yeah, absolute nightmare for the home crowd. But yeah, it would be no better place for Gasly to get a solid result on the board. But obviously, beating Max is going to be very tough.
Yeah, I mean, I came across a statistic which we did not discuss in the review for Canada, which you should have probably, is that since Canada last year, Canada 2018 to Canada 2019, whenever Max has finished a race, he has not finished behind his teammate, which is 22 races now. And he has finished above his teammate in every single race that he has finished. And that is something I don't think I've seen any other driver achieve in the modern sort of in the last few years.
And that is actually that's a really impressive stat. I didn't realise it was quite like that. Because I mean, Yeah, because I mean, a lot of those races would have been against Daniel Ricciardo, and of course, something that shows kind of the maturity of Max. You know, the way he makes less mistakes in the races now. He's less, you watch him now and you think he just seems a lot more mature. He's more mature at picking his battles. You know, when to put his nose in and when is the moment to hold back. You know, he's obviously still ultra aggressive, and that's what makes him stand out as a driver. But it's not like I'm going to fight every battle. I'm going to put my nose um, next to the car at every single opportunity. He seems a bit more wiser, a bit smarter now, a bit more race wise, which is really brought down its results, which is actually really very surprising. But as you say, very very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's like funny to see you point out surprising. Yeah, because we did not expect Max to calm down anytime soon. But then, yeah, like it's really impressive to see him sort of the Verstappen 2.0 that people are talking about. And yeah, I think that is something that age does to you in a way, that you sort of start to pick your battles and you realize that you cannot win every battle.
Yeah, I think it's kind of age and experience, and it's not necessarily calming down. It's more just being smarter about it. You know, I think like Lewis Hamilton, very similar. You know, when Lewis Hamilton first started in like 2007 and 8, always in the steward's office, always getting the penalties, and nowadays he's not lost that competitive spirit, and he's one of the best wheel-to-wheel drivers on the grid. But he's a lot smarter now, and that's where Verstappen is the direction he's heading in as well.
Yeah, I mean, if Hamilton had been the Hamilton of the later half of his career, Kimi wouldn't have had his world championship.
That's true. It's true, and honestly, it's easy in hindsight to say, Hamilton. What was he thinking in China 2007, driving into the gravel and all stuff like that. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff where you learn on the job, and it's very a harsh reality.
Yeah, one more point that I wanted to discuss, that's something we missed last time around, was Seb's antic after the race. We did discuss the points, but then the act of him where he changed the positions, where he put the first, uh, put Hamilton. What am I saying? Yeah, he put the number 2 board in front of Hamilton's car and took the 1 away from Hamilton's car. So I really wanted to like give your opinion on this, because are we being driver specific in the way we react to such things? Because if it had been somebody like Max Verstappen in instead of Seb, would we have acted differently or reacted differently to it? Because everybody applauded that, but then was it in the spirit of the sport?
It's one of those things where sometimes I wish people would just analyze stuff a lot less. Sometimes I think we look too hard. I mean, Sebastian drove a great race, feels he's been robbed of the victory, and he's disappointed, and he does that. Even if he's trying to be funny, even if he's disappointed, it's the kind of thing where we don't want drivers to be robots. There's plenty. The whole grid is full of drivers which seemingly have no personality, really. Outside of the car, we don't know anything about the vast, vast majority of the grid. We know nothing about what they do. They're completely anonymous until they turn up in their cars every weekend, and even then,
Williams are
you know,
anonymous even then.
Williams are anonymous even then. Very good point. Very good point. But yeah, then even like in the races, a lot of them we don't see much personality coming through. We don't hear many team radios. Like when you see something like that from a driver, a reaction, a bit of frustration, a bit of their personality coming out, and obviously they're going to be disappointed. The situation, obviously, he's going to be incredibly disappointed. So I just feel like and as soon as we ever see a bit of like emotion or a bit of something different about a driver which shows personality, we all jump in it like, oh, is that acceptable? Should Sebastian's a disgrace? That he's not in the sporting spirit. I'm like, come on, I'll give it. I think we all need to just calm down a little bit. Yeah, he was disappointed, and yeah, he moved some boards around. Is it the end of the world? No. Did it affect anybody? No. Let's just let him be disappointed and move on. And I know, although I do say move on, I will want to say, just to draw a final line under the whole calendar business. Obviously, we have heard the news today that Ferrari's appeal has once and for all been thrown out by the FIA.
Yeah, I mean that's a relief, to be honest, because to be honest, we've been a little tired of this over the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's been all about this. this incident, and like Ferrari appeals getting rejected, Ferrari appealing again, looking for other options to appeal, and it's been all about the. I mean, it's really like it affects the mood heading into a Grand Prix weekend, to be honest.
It does. I mean, it's a story that we've all known the ending to. I feel like it's been quite obvious that it's going to be rejected. I don't think, outside of the ranks of Maranello, I don't think anybody really thought the Ferrari were going to find compelling new evidence to convince the stewards, and honestly, as it turned out, they didn't. So I'm just glad. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad the stewards stuck to their gun, didn't back down,
Yeah,
and
and
yeah, I'm
and
glad we moved on.
also because if this had taken a turn, I mean, if this would have continued, uh, every 5 second penalty or a 10 second penalty would have been questioned from now on. And if Ferrari deserved to be listened to for their whatever penalty they received in Canada, Red Bull deserved to be listened to for what they received in Monaco then.
That's actually a very, very good point. Yeah, I haven't thought about it before, but yeah, you're right. That would have been a very dangerous precedent to set to allow if it turned out that 5 second penalties could be challenged and could be taken off the record. Every single team banging on the steward's door after the race. This is unfair. This is unfair. The stewards. I'm sure the stewards didn't find any new evidence, but yeah, it was also important for them to say, look, this is our decision. The race was 2 weeks ago. You can no longer challenge, which was important.
Yeah, and if every 5 second or 10 second penalty like starts to be challenged, then I think Gunther Steiner would be in for a difficult time.
So true. Roman would never be out of the steward's office. There's always someone who's wronged Roman.
No, so speaking of Roman, we come to the midfield. So Renault are bringing significant upgrades to their car, but then unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to plan because in FP1, both the cars reported smoke from their cockpits. And what do you make of it?
Yeah, it was. Obviously, Renault have been in an upward trajectory the last couple of races, and obviously coming into their home race, bringing a big upgrade. Yeah, obviously, upgrades don't always go the way you want it to. It's not been the easiest start. And obviously, within a race weekend, it's hard if the package isn't working as it should do. It's hard for them to understand the problem, diagnose it, and sort it out within the space of a race weekend. So, could be a little bit of a step back for Renault this weekend, but we'll wait for FP3 and qualify before making a more definitive judgment. But yeah, I'm sure it's not been the instant progress they were hoping for.
Yeah. So going from a team whom we expected to be the best midfield team this weekend to the team which does appear to be the best in the midfield this weekend, McLaren. What an FP2 they had. I mean, both the practice sessions they were impressive, but then in FP2 they finished above Red Bull in the standings. What did you make of that? That was surprising.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, McLaren have had a great weekend. Shaping up to Orlando Norris, finishing P7 both sessions. Yeah, it's obviously, and as well, Lando Norris is running the hard tyre in P2 as well, and he was finishing ahead of likes of. He had a good 2 or 3 attempts on Kimi Raikkonen and Giovinazzi and Ricciardo and Albon, and everyone down that would run in the soft tyres. So it was a really, really impressive showing actually from McLaren. Obviously, I remember McLaren are the ones defending their ground in the battle of the midfield. They were the current leaders. Now Renault are coming back at them. So yeah, they've got to make progress themselves. And Lando Norris continues to have a very impressive debut season. I'm sure the thing he will need now is to convert it into the race, because something that's been a little bit frustrating, I'm sure, from his point of view. And it wasn't his fault in Canada that he's had strong practice and qualifying sessions, and there's probably been a couple of races this season where Lando has probably not got the result he wanted to, and been a bit rash.
I mean, if you look at it, I think both the McLaren drivers have been quite unlucky in more than one occasions this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Carlos Sainz had his fair share of bad luck and racing incidents which weren't his fault, but have obviously affected his race terminally in some cases.
Yeah, Bahrain
Yeah.
sparks to mind. No, so from McLaren we go to the next best team according to the practice sheets at least. Alfa Romeo, making a comeback after 2 or 3 dull weekends. To be honest, what do you think of their chances this weekend?
Yeah, they're a difficult team to judge, aren't they, Alfa Romeo? I mean, they come in and out, don't they? They had a very good start of the season, or Kimi Raikkonen certainly got some good points, and then they've had a couple of terrible weekends. Raikkonen in particular has had some really, really, really poor results, and yeah, hopefully the cars are on a bit of a comeback this weekend, and obviously Giovinazzi needs a good point scoring finish.
Yeah, I mean, I can draw a strange parallel to Alpha's season this season, because I think the track that Alfa Romeo have been on in 2019 sort of resembles what Haas were on in 2018, because for the first 8 races, they had points from only one driver. They made a very strong start, but then fell off in the middle and then started picking up again.
Yeah, I think that's a good point actually. Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult in that midfield, isn't it? It's so congested, and obviously it's hard to know whose car's going to work well where, which tracks, and whose driver's going to have a good weekend. Because if every team's got good drivers, and every team's got really similar match cars. So yeah, it's going to be a real. I'm really enjoying the dogfight. It's obviously a shame. It's a shame the fight is so far behind the top three. Obviously, we've talked about it before. We had hoped they'd make a step closer. Hasn't happened, but certainly it's a very good midfield battle this season. But yeah, Alfa Romeo could be on for a strong weekend. They're one who's obviously lost some ground on their competitors.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because I was just thinking about it. And, if we compare this to the Premier League, there are 20 teams, there are 20 drivers, and you realistically have 6 drivers who have a chance to win. And in the Premier League, you have 6 powerhouse clubs, and then you have the rest. But then
Yeah.
you do get, once in a while, you get a fixture like West Ham and Watford, which will be more interesting than Man City versus Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, often in the at the top, one driver just drives away, and you're left with the tight battle in the midfield. And sometimes you wish the cameraman would show that a bit more rather than
Yeah, that's been the
Hamilton
complaint of
driving
most
out
of the
10 seconds.
fans this season.
Yeah, it's been interesting camera work. 'Cause obviously, they like to show like Hamilton 10 seconds in the distance to everyone else, but it's like that's so well and good. But when you've got overtakes galore for like 9 to 12 people diving down the inside of each other, getting penalties, and at the end of the race, you see like, the Hulkenberg, just example. Oh, Hulkenberg's ended with a 5-second penalty. Why was this not shown? Or like you go on Twitter and you see like I think it was in Monaco, like Carlos Sainz made like a ridiculous start. It made it like 6th place off the line. That never made it to TV. That was only ever like spotted on Twitter after the
Yeah,
race. It's like
yeah.
yeah, sometimes you feel like it is worth showing the midfield. And there are battles that maybe should get more attention.
Yeah. I mean, this was the complete last year also, I guess. Uh, Many people called one of Kevin Magnussen's the overtake of the season, and then nobody got to see it because the footage wasn't available and it didn't appear on TV.
Yes, yeah, it's that is really disappointing. Yeah, as I say, it's people want to see overtakes. That's why that's a lot of the more casual F1 fans, which we are not members of, obviously, but
Yeah.
the more casual fans, they want to see racing, they want to see overtakes, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind. They would rather see a great battle if it was battling for 11th place. A genuine, interesting battle, cars overtaking each other, than one and two driving like 2 seconds apart from each other, not really getting close.
Yeah, and that would mean that Gasly would get no screen time.
That's true.
Because I mean, he needs to improve his overtaking when he's in Red Bull, to be honest, because I don't see any other ways. Speaking of Gasly and his Red Bull seat, we need to mention the 2 Toro Rosso drivers. They haven't been particularly impressive in the 2 practice sessions. Then come the race, they can surprise us, can't they?
Yeah, and obviously they'll be benefiting from the from the Honda package as well, and any progress Red Bull makes, Toro Rosso would be far behind. And obviously sometimes they're obviously guinea pigs, aren't they? But yeah, I'm expecting good weekend for Toro Rosso. But yeah, they are the kind of team where they really wait for the race and qualifying and turn it on. I think they're one of the few teams this season where the race pace has really, really been on point. More often than not, you see Toro Rosso, they make progress in the races rather than qualifying well and then falling back. A lot of the time, they either finish where they qualify or they actually go up during the race.
Yeah, you're correct.
It's not really been. I've not really seen it this season where Toro Rosso had a great qualifying and then when there's not been extenuating circumstances, they've just completely dropped down out of the points. It's been impressive with Toro Rosso. Yeah, obviously we'll expect some more on Saturday.
Yeah, no, obviously. And I was just thinking about this, that we don't pay attention to this. Everybody complains about the drivers who haven't scored points. And I was thinking about Giovinazzi, which is why this thought came to mind, that there are 12 drivers in the midfield who can score points or have point scoring cars. Apart from Williams, there are 6 teams in the midfield and there are 12 drivers. And if the top 6 drivers all finish, only 4 of them can score points. So in every race, you will have 8 deserving drivers who won't score points.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. Like you look at the driver lineups of those teams, and there's some very, very impressive drivers on the grid, and there just isn't enough room in the points for them, and that's why the battle's so close. Because obviously, as you say, only 4 on an average day, no reliability problems. Only 4 of them can score points, and then even so, the points that are available are so small as well. So like you can have a brilliant race, it'd be like in a racing point, have a great race, get 9th and 10th. At the end of the day, you've only scored 3 points. So
Yeah.
and then the following weekend, you finish out of the points. A rival team gets an 8th place, and they've scored more points than you, and they've gone ahead of you in the constructor standings.
Yeah.
So
So,
it
do you
changes
think
every single
that
weekend.
there's a scope for the idea that all the finishers should be awarded points?
So I've watched motorsport manager videos where I see they've had the rule change and that's been voted in. I really no, so I don't know. I don't think I'm a fan of that. I'm not sure. I feel like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it sort of ruins the competition, to be honest. Because if everybody's getting points,
it does, and I don't like, and I like the current fact that there is a clear discrepancy between the point and the position. I like how it encourages aggressive proactive driving that you for example if it was 20 points available the winner gets 20, second place gets 19, so on and so on all the way down. there's so much less there's so much less interest, so much less point in like overtaking. You could happily sit there in second and say, look, I can't overtake him, but at the end of the day it's a single point.
yeah, and
Whereas
especially
in this system,
especially if the race turns out as crazy as Baku, for example, where you have 7 to 8 cars not finishing, it will be a processional race.
exactly. Whereas now you've got, and in this system, you have to win the championship. You can't sit there and think, oh, I'll just sit here in second, because, well, at the end of the day, as the season goes on, you sit there and think, I'm losing 7 points here. We have to push forward, we have to do this, whereas, so there's not that incentive, you're just losing the 1 point. And yeah, it would be just, I think you should be rewarded more for where you finish, definitely.
Yeah, not a good idea. Anyway, so in other news, Daniel Kvyat will obviously be receiving the different spec power unit, the new power unit from Honda, which is why he will be starting from the back of the grid or the pit lane. So, do you expect him to run in Q1 and knock Stroll out of Q1 just for the fun of it?
Yeah, probably. Give him a. Wouldn't be Q1, wouldn't it, if Lance Stroll made it through?
Yeah, but then yeah, if Kvyat doesn't run, then he's got a chance because he just needs to beat 2 cars, which will be both the Haas cars. Looking just a wild guess.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the session practice two, sorry, and I'm looking at it, and I've got Gary Magnussen and Roman Grosjean both finishing ahead of Lance Stroll by 3 and 4 tenths respectively. So it might not be as simple as that.
Yeah, and it's at least from the tables, it's not looking very good for Racing Point.
No, Racing Point, yeah, they've really hit a rough patch. And obviously, we talked a bit of length in the last podcast about how they're still affected by the money troubles from last year. But yeah, they've it's turning into a bit of a long season. And in a season where we thought they'd make some progress, they're actually probably not doing as well as this time last year. Even when there were so many obvious problems, which now seem to be solved, they don't seem to be doing as well. So it's a bit of a frustration for Racing Point at the moment.
Yeah, but then like we keep saying this every weekend, I feel that Racing Point is not delivering or they're having a sort of underwhelming season. But then if you look at the championship standings, they're not doing too bad.
No, and again, that's the beauty of the midfield battle, isn't it? They've had couple of strong finishes, and yeah, you're right up there. And actually, yeah, no, you said that. That raises a good point because it's been quite clear from watching the races to say that Toro Rosso have had a great season. But if you look at it, they're 2 points behind most point in the standings. And I could go back and I can recall where Toro Rosso had good races and picked up points. I'm struggling to pin down where Race Point have accumulated their points just from memory, but when they have, and they've got 2 more points to Rosso, so they're a strange team in that way.
Yeah, I mean, like if I look at this, I think Racing Point has been like more haphazard in the way they have collected points, whereas Toro Rosso have been consistent, like picking up sort of say 3 or 4 points per race, whereas Racing Point has picked up points in half of the races, but then wherever they've picked up like sixth places, seventh places.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I was talking about earlier. This midfield battle. I think you're right. A lot of times, Toro Rosso has got 9th and 10th, or just 10th. So in reality, they probably had more points paying positions over the course of the season as Racing Point, but Racing Points have been fewer, but they've been worth more. So it probably does appear like Toro Rosso getting the points more, but Racing Point have had the odd 6th or 7th place, where Toro Rosso are consistently 8th, 9th, and 10th. So yeah, it's
interesting.
very much,
The
very
midfield,
much.
I mean, like you look at the points table, you understand how close that is between the midfield. Apart from Williams, obviously. So, do you really see light at the end of the tunnel for Williams?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're. George Russell in particular is making some ground. I mean, we're looking at these sector times from practice, and obviously, always the first to say practice isn't the best barometer of the true pace, blah blah blah. But yeah, you're looking at the Williams boys, and they're setting times that are less than a second off the next person up. So obviously, it's slow progress. I'm sure they're always going to be at the back for this season, but I'm sure they're working hard behind the scenes. They're getting some new appointments in place. So I'm sure they're gonna make a step forward. Obviously, it's probably not going to be. It probably will be maybe 2 or so years before they're fully back in the midfield, which is depressing to say, but they are slowly but surely making progress. But I wouldn't expect to see them in the points or even out of 19th and 20th before the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was listening to George Russell speak, and he was like clearly mentioning that the Williams will be at 19th and 20th for the foreseeable future, at least for the next couple of races. But then, yeah, he did mention that the team is positive and they're working hard, which is kind of rhetorical, to be honest, because, yeah, it's obvious they are.
Well, yeah, and even if they're not, you have to say they are.
You don't have any other options, do
You
you?
can't really come out and say, we're not really giving that all, to be honest. If we worked a bit harder, we probably could get quicker, but it's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, but
You can't really say that.
isn't that how Stroll used to speak last year?
Lance is just an enigma, isn't he?
No, so yeah, before we go, then give us your predictions and your one to watch from the midfield.
That's a good question. I think I don't know. I think Valtteri might have a good. I've got a suddenly got a feeling Valtteri's going to have a comeback weekend. Valtteri's going to take P1. That's my prediction. My one to watch from the midfield is, I think, watch out for Kimi. I think Kimi might have a solid race this weekend. It's hardly an unknown quantity, but from where he's been in the last few weekends, I think this could be a considerable improvement for him.
Yeah, I was about to mention this. Kimi has been sort of in the last 2 to 3 weekends. He's been under the radar.
Definitely, yeah. Obviously, it was so impressive to get those consistent points competitions to start the season. Yeah, it's been a disappointment, but yeah, I think this could be a comeback weekend for Alpha. So now I will flip the question to you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I would like to sound a little bit boring and copy your answer in saying that Valtteri is going to take the win this time around because it's 5-2, so it sort of needs to even itself out. Lewis has 5 wins and Valtteri has 2, so yeah, sort of even yourself out. And I think Leclerc, I have a strange feeling that he will split the Mercedes in this race,
Yeah.
split the two Mercedes.
I don't mind that prediction. I say I think Charles has got a strong weekend coming.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton will still be leading the championship at the end of this weekend. Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, you can be happy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so my one to watch from the midfield would be Carlos Sainz.
Got a sign, solid
Yeah,
choice.
because I really have good vibes from McLaren this weekend.
Okay, so yeah, that's that. Obviously, we'll see how we get on with great interest on Sunday. We will see you then.
That was the preview for France, and we will be back with the review as soon as the race ends or as soon as we can get it edited.